Commissioner Mason will lead us in the pledge. Commissioner Winters will say the bless. If you would, please stand.
Shall we pray?
Oh, I'm sorry. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for a city like Cleveland and a county like Bradley. Thank you for your blessings that you give us by day. Know that this is the beginning of school year, time that our most treasured possessions go into classrooms, sometimes meeting adults in their lives for the first time, others making old acquaintances, moving forward. We pray blessings and protections. May this meeting be productive, Lord, in your sight, as well as our constituents. In Christ's name.
Amen. Thank you. All right, going to our agenda. First item up, Mayor Davis, the mayor's report. Mayor Davis, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The only thing I have is your credit card report, and I'll go through it hurriedly unless you have questions. Remind you, we're checking for receipts attached, receipts signed, receipts detailed, used locally, and how many times. Fire department, no charges. Assessor used 4 times, but all good. Sheriff's Department used 13 times, but all good. Mayor, no charges. EMA used 3 times, all good, except it was used once locally at a gas station. And the new one that's out there now is the Juvenile Department, and it was used once, but all good. That's all I have, unless you have questions.
Any questions for the mayor? Seeing none, going to our amendments. The first amendment is Bradley County Road Department. They're increasing their revenue, increasing their expenses by $39,200. This is an insurance check for one of their vehicles that was damaged or something like that. This gets put back into their account so they can purchase a new one. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment as presented? I have a motion from Commissioner Slater. I have a second from Commissioner Mason. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Moving on to the next amendment. There you see the supporting documentation and the check there. This is coming from, the next amendment's coming from the county mayor. Take note, this is from Fund 128, so it's art money. He's decreasing the fund balance, and you can see the respective itemized there. $8,000 for highway equipment, payments to schools. That's not Bradley County schools, that's Cleveland State, as I found out. And $25,000 for the Tasso Fire Hall roof, EMS ambulance, and fire parking lot. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment as presented? I have a motion from Commissioner Winters. I have a second from Commissioner Slater. Any further discussion? Mayor, real quick, the fire parking lot, I assume that is the Menace Road.
It is.
Yeah.
By the way, these are all in the plan that you approved. It is for Menace Road, and that one at this point is still just an estimate. We're waiting on the official estimate. But
So this will be done at the same time as the city does their stuff, or will we wait until after? Because the city's like a year out, right?
we'll go ahead and do it
All right.
first. There was some talk about that, but they really want to do this before it's annexed, if that makes sense.
It does. All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? Thank you, Mayor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Moving on to the next budget amendment is from also the county mayor, decrease in reserves, $48,802. This is out of the archive, and you can see he's itemized it for clerical personnel, Social Security, so forth and so on. This is another one of the annual amendments that he does, so he can basically pay and run operations for it. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment as presented? I have a motion from Commissioner Mason. I have a second from Commissioner Alford. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Moving on to the next one, we have the trustee's office, a whole whopping $54. He's moving from dues and membership. I'm sorry, he's moving from tuition to dues and membership. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment as presented? I have a motion from Commissioner Slater. I have a second from Commissioner Winters. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Moving on to the next budget amendment. Election Commission. She is moving money out of the undesignated fund balance into her line for liability insurance of $1,278. Before we get into this one, Mayor, we're in our first meeting after the budget, and we're moving money out of the fund balance. I chatted with them. I think instead of moving money from the undesignated fund balance, we could just use the county commission's 599, so we don't get in the habit of touching the fund balance. If that's,
That would make sense. Normally, we would suggest they wait till later in the budget year, and they might have a line with excess funds in it, but
I guess.
either way you want to do it.
So can we, scratch out that it's going to be decreasing, the undesignated fund balance, and we put in the commission's account in line 599? That way we don't touch the fund balance on our very first finance meeting here in August. Please, Commissioner. So we don't have to take it out of the fund balance. And if that was the case, then we would go to the fund balance, but we wait till the end of the year before we do that. I'm sorry? The fund balance is for everybody in the general fund.
Okay.
The fund balance, going into the fund balance this soon, from what I understand, this is just an estimate. I wouldn't even call it an error. It was more, I guess, you guys get an estimate of how much the liability insurance is, and you
Yeah,
just
that
distribute
line
that
came
cost
in
to everybody?
more. It wasn't their fault. That line did come in more than we had put in their budget for them. So you can pay it out of 599 if you'd like. You've got some there for miscellaneous. Or you could tell them to wait, overdraw the line and correct it later in the year, or you go ahead and do what's in front of you.
My suggestion is use a 599. But what's the pleasure of finance committee? Want to take it out of fund balance this early, or not? Go, please.
No, but don't take it out. 599.
No, I don't. How do you feel about it?
I don't like to spend it for other things.
Anything else? So do you want to set, right now, we are moving it out of the fund balance, and you don't want to move it out of fund balance? Because I know how you feel about fund balance.
Withdraw that one and make it up sometime later in the year. I have a budget item that they've got money left.
Anything else?
Is that a motion?
So,
I'll put that in the form of a motion if you need to.
well, all we have to do then is just move not even to take up the amendment. I mean,
Just hold the amendment till later if that's
That's
the
what you want.
wishes.
so they have a motion from Commissioner Offer to, hold the amendment. I guess that's what we'll call it usually, right? Do we have a second? Fails for a lack of second. Back to the original motion. It really is half dozen, 60 other. I mean, if we pull it out of fund balance, I'm thinking habit as far as fund balance, moving money out of the fund balance this early. Yeah, but that's the way the amendment reads, so we'll go with that. Right now, it is 1,278 undesignated fund balance going into liability insurance. And, yeah, all right. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment as presented? I have a motion from Commissioner, I'm talking about the election. But if we don't want to roll it, then we got to vote on it. So who wants to make the motion? Okay, all right, I have a motion from Commissioner Winters. I have a second from Commissioner. I'll second it, Blake. Did you? I'm sorry, Commissioner. Second from Commissioner Blake. Any further discussion? Commissioner Mason, seconded. Sorry for all the confusion over there. We have a motion from Commissioner Winters. We have a second from Commissioner Mason. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all the Commissioner
The
Winters.
reason I made that motion, I just don't think we ought to start their year with negative. Always. Anyway. Over. Budget.
And we're talking about a whole whopping 1,000. All right. Yes, I'm sorry, yeah. The 599 one. All right, we got a motion, we got a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion passes 4 approval, 1 no. Moving on to the next amendment. And there you see the, there. EMS, decreasing expenses out of tuition and increasing other equipment for $4,000. I have a motion, and you see that, yeah, I have a motion from Commissioner Slater. I have a second from Commissioner Winters. We're getting a discussion. Adam, real quick, this is the radios that you chatted about, what, a month or two ago? How many do you get for 4,000?
It's more than that. We have the new ambulance that's about to be put in service that required 4 radios, and then also we've got the command vehicle, the Durango, that's on order that'll be coming in October. 5 total radios.
So $4,000 buys 5 radios.
$14,000 buys 4.
Oh, so you're
radios
using some
and
extra
our
money somewhere
command
else.
vehicle radio. So yeah, there's more money than just this 4.
Didn't I thought we were gonna use art money for that. Did that change?
That motion was never made. I mean, I guess that's at your pleasure, but that's,
Mayor, were you thinking using art money, the 14,000 for the radios? I know you got money, we just did the 200,000 for the ambulance.
200 for the ambulance. Is there a 10 somewhere else?
yeah,
I
to
don't
be
have
honest
that.
with you, we've already paid for these, so I don't know that it's going to be possible at this
Okay.
point.
But if you've already paid for them, then, yeah, okay.
And this line is savings where we put the scholarship money in ARP that freed up this 4,000.
All right, do I have a motion and a second? Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Moving on to the next amendment. Bradley County EMS, and wonderful writing. Increase in revenue and increase in expenses, so it's money coming in. This is the famous blood draws. We have a motion to accept the amendment as presented. I have a motion from Commissioner Mason. I have a second from Commissioner Slater. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Moving on to the next amendment. There you see the check from Pinnacle. Also from Bradley County EMS, and also $2,000 for blood drawn. This is, I believe, is coming from the city, right? Yes. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment as presented? I have a motion from Commissioner Slater. I have a second from Commissioner Winters. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. And there you see the check. And another Bradley County EMS, increase in the revenue and increase in expenses, so it's money coming in. This is $5,175. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment as presented? I have a motion from Commissioner Winters. I have a second from Commissioner Mason. Any further discussion? Not so much discussion, but I will point out, they also supplied, this is services rendered, basically EMS. Usually these are at the end of the budget packet, but you can see who received that duty, who was on that those lists or whatever, kind of like what we get for the sheriff's department when they do services rendered. So that lets you know who got those assignments there. I appreciate you sending that over, Adam. All right. All right, any further discussion? Commissioner Alford, please.
We primarily look for higher classified, so paramedics primarily, and then advanced EMTs, and whoever's available. We make the special event schedule available in advance, and they can pick up if they want to. Correct. Correct. That has not been a problem since we've started the special event pay. We actually are beating them off with a stick. That's always been a problem before for these special events, is nobody wanted to go work them because it didn't pay more. Why would they go spend their night off or weekend off at an event and maybe make overtime?
And your rate is gonna be a flat rate, so it's not, their wage rate doesn't come into play to how much
That's correct.
rally race or horse show has to pay.
The
Unlike
employee,
the sheriff's department,
yeah.
their wage rates do come into play.
correct.
Yours is a flat across the board.
The employees, regardless of the event, will get paid $50 an hour. And the only difference will be on the billing side. When we bill the event, there's essentially, we talked about this in the EMS committee meeting, there's essentially a nonprofit rate and a for-profit rate. So if you are a for-profit organization booking services with Bradley County EMS, you'll be billed at a higher rate than if you were a nonprofit.
All right, I have a motion and a second. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. And, Lori, when, I guess you put this all together, can you include that? All right, going on to the next amendment, and scroll. Bradley County EMS, decreasing the fund balance and putting it in there. This is just the accounting piece of all those salaries, right, Mayor?
This is where a check came in at the end of the fiscal year, so you're technically bringing it
You're
from the
bringing
fund
it,
balance.
you're bringing it back because you
but
had to close
yeah,
out.
the
There
check
you go.
went into the fund
All right,
balance.
very good. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment from Commissioner Winters? I have a second from Commissioner Slater. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Moving on to the next amendment, Parks and Rec, $1,500. This is a donation. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment? I have a motion from Commissioner Winters. I have a second from Commissioner Slater. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Next budget amendment, $3,000. Also donations going to the disc golf. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment? I have a motion from Commissioner Winters. I have a second from Commissioner Mason. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Real quick, Adam, when they do when they sponsor a hole, do they put like their corporate logo on the hole or whatever?
We've asked for their logo, and each of the holes has a sign that shows the map of the hole, the par for that particular hole, and then one of the elements of the sign will be the logo of the sponsor.
Okay, I would be just a tad concerned about Cleveland Hemp using their logo, but
We considered that, but their check cashed as well as everybody else's, so we decided to roll with it.
There was some fun in that.
Funny.
Commissioner Offer, please.
Curiosity, it's disc golf. Who is liable when somebody gets hit upside the head with one of those discs? Is that guy that runs the course, or Bradley County gonna be liable?
I mean, it may be the guy that threw the disc. I don't know. That would be a
No, I
crystal
don't think
question.
so.
That would probably be a crystal question.
I think it'd be wise to look into that because it's gonna happen sooner or later. Because some people can't control where those things go very well.
Commissioner Slater.
If someone who's liable if a foul ball is hit at Bradley North and hit someone in the head? Is it the batter or is it Bradley County Parks?
If I was a betting man, if the fence wasn't high enough, it'd probably be us. If just a regular foul ball, it'd probably be not us. It depends on how the situation of the equipment or the safety equipment, say.
But you're right, it would be very similar to that. Usually it's fly balls going through windshields, things
Yeah.
like that. That does happen, and it's part of our liability usually.
Well, not to, if somebody gets hurt from a disc, we need to sign them up for the Olympics because they're throwing it pretty hard. So- we vote on this yet? All right. We have a motion and we have a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. And there's the agreement and the checks. We
Molly,
can,
you didn't have a motion or a second on that one.
I apologize. Back. I thought I have a motion from Commissioner Slater. I have a second from Commissioner Mason. Any further discussion? We're on the amendment that we just approved. How about that? We're gonna approve it real
Twice.
good.
Double.
We're gonna double approve it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. That amendment got it extra. Because of that hint. Next budget amendment. Still with Parks and Rec, also donations of $3,000. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment? I have a motion from Commissioner Winters. I have a second from Commissioner Mason. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed say no. Passes
Chairman,
5-0. Commissioner Winters, please.
when someone makes a contribution, do we send them a thank you note? Do we
I
send
usually
them
do.
that? Okay, great. Already on it. Thank you. Good.
All right, next budget amendment is coming from Juvenile Court. You can see it there. And is this is the corrected one, or? When we added this up the other day, it didn't balance. Melita was supposed to send over. Mayor, the expense side doesn't add up to the revenue side. It's about 5,000 short. We asked Melita to send Renee a new one, or I'm sorry, Caleb, so that did Melita talk to you?
I hadn't got one yet, no.
So we need to roll this, because this is off.
Can we do this? Can we put the extra 5,000? It was 5,000 short, right?
It was close to that, wasn't it, Lori? Oh, there was one that was 5,000.
I have the corrected one. I'll put it in the packet.
I'm sorry?
I have the corrected one. I can put it in the packet. Renee just sent me a text.
So
Okay.
approve
She's
the
got it.
corrected version that he has that will go in the packet before it goes to the
Well,
commission.
it goes to the consent agenda? Very good. There was one that was 5,000, wasn't there? All right, sorry, I just remembered that this was not balanced correctly. So ignore the one that you have on your screen. Caleb has a corrected one where it does balance. The revenue is what the expenses are. I have a motion from Commissioner Winters. I have a second from Commissioner Mason. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. There you see the supporting documentation. Next, to stand with Juvenile Court, it's $500 increase in the revenue, $500 increase in expenses for donation to the Leaf Academy. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment as presented? I have a motion from Commissioner Slater. I have a second from Commissioner Winters. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0.
That was the pay it forward that we got. So. You hear
Yeah,
about
from the television.
Yeah, you hear about pay it forward.
Yeah.
Got that one.
And to make sure the Secret Service doesn't get us with the counterfeit money, they did some kind of funky thing with the Xerox machine. All that. Did you see it? Yeah. All right, sticking with Juvenile Court, increase in revenue and increase in expenses of the same amount, $500. Also a donation to the Leaf Academy. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment from Commissioner Slater? I have a second from Commissioner Mason. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. And we appreciate the donation. All right, then we get into the sheriff's office. Decrease in expenses from the deputies line 106 over to school resource officer at 107 in the same account. I think this is just to shore up that account or that line of $6,000. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment? I have the motion from Commissioner Winters. I have the second from Commissioner Slater. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Moving on to the next one, sticking with the Bradley County Sheriff's Office, $4,500. She's decreasing her reserve, so she's pulling out and she's putting it into her account. And you see it goes into tuition and other supplies. She's got it itemized. This is the sexual offender registry. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment? I have a motion from Commissioner Alford. I have a second from Commissioner Winters. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Passes 5-0. Staying with the Bradley County Sheriff's Office, $22,660.88. This is the safety grant, and you'll see there, I think this is the last of that grant, is what, she says there, and then she itemizes it. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment from Commissioner Slater? I have a second from Commissioner Winters. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say, I'm sorry. Oh, okay. So, okay, this was, Mayor, this is the one that was off by 5,000. I apologize. No, it wasn't the juvenile, it was this one. So, Cassandra, I talked to Cassandra, she was gonna send you guys a new amendment. We talked to her on Tuesday or Wednesday of last week. I assume you haven't received it.
If I ain't got it, I'll get it from Renee. So,
All right.
if I don't have it, I'll get it from Renee.
If you don't have it, you'll get it from me. So did she go with the 22,000 and her expenses are 22,000, or did she go with the amount of the expenses and lowered her revenue?
I'm not sure on that. I haven't talked to Cassandra.
Well, I'm gonna ask that we roll that until we find out whether or not she's at her. I mean, these are amendments to the budget. All right. So let's roll this to the September finance meeting. All right. Bradley County Sheriff's, no, moving on to the next amendment, Bradley County Sheriff's Office. She's moving money out of the fund balance of 44,000, and she is, got it itemized as, the Securus. Oh, that's that, I forget what Mayor, you had a contract with Securus, I believe, that you had us do a couple months ago. Anyway, I guess this is to pay for it. It's coming out of the fund balance. Let's get a motion in a second, then I'll ask the mayor. I have a motion from Commissioner Winters. I have a second from Commissioner Alford. Mayor, do you know why this is coming out of the fund balance? Was it money brought in the last budget and we're just pulling it back out?
I don't recall on that one. The explanation says money was taken out of 399, I assume last year. So now you're putting it back in.
Out of the fund balance, out of 3,900.
You're rolling one anyway. Why don't you roll them both?
All right.
I don't recall that one.
So here's the check for 71. All right, moving on to the next
They gave
budget.
us a check. It was one of those end of the year things. So they gave us a check. We used part of it. The rest of it more than likely went into the fund balance, and now you're bringing it back out. But at this point, that's only a guess.
All right, we'll move on to the next one. We'll roll that one. Bradley County Sheriff's Office, $2,000. She's increasing revenue, increases in expenses, so it's money coming in. This is a grant also. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment as presented? I have a motion from Commissioner Winters. I have a second from Commissioner Alford. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those say no, passes 5-0. Moving on to the next budget amendment. There you see the supported documentation and the check. 13,000, I'm sorry, she's decreasing her revenue, 13,185, and she's increasing her expenses at the same amount, and it's going into other contracted services. This is the violent crime grant. This money was in the 24-25 budget. Grant documents are available, but were included in the budget amendments for 22-23. All right. So, do I have a motion to accept the amendment as presented? I have a motion from Commissioner Alford. I have a second from Commissioner Slater. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. And then you see the supporting documentation, itemization, so forth. There we go. Now we're staying with here, Bradley County Sheriff's Office, $1,275,000, an increase in revenue, and then you see the itemization there, respectively. This is the new money coming from the state for the SRO program. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment? I have the motion from Commissioner Slater. I have the second from Commissioner Winters. Any further discussion? Mayor, this is the only check that we get. This isn't one of those where they send a little bit here, a little bit there. And it covers all SROs.
Covers the amount the state's agreed to do, and we do more than that.
That's what I thought. I just want to say that out loud. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. And this is one of the grants we get at the beginning of the budget year instead of the end of the year. There's no services rendered? Very good. That concludes the amendments. There are no other ones, I believe. Going to our agenda. Art interest money. If you go down a little bit, Lori has been keeping track of how much we're getting on interest, and in June of 24, the interest was earned off of the principal in that fund, 71,382. So we've been keeping track. We did budget this already, so it's not like money we didn't know about. But Lori's been keeping track of that amount, so we just will know where we're at. So this is just good FYI. Any questions on that? That's just it. Item B, Revenue Fund 189, page 4 and 7. If you go to page 4 and 7, and you're gonna have to turn it here. Yeah. All right. Mayor, this is why I put this on the agenda. This is on the expense side, though, not the. This is May of 24. So, Mayor, listen, in the current budget for 189, we've only got basically one thing budgeted. But we also allowed 150,000 for something just in case, whatever. And that's in the budget. My question, I guess, is that 150, shouldn't it just stay in the fund balance and not have money in a line until we know what we're gonna spend that for? So it's not kind of quote unquote just sitting out there?
Yeah, I showed it so that people like you would know that we retain that much in the fund. But if you don't ever vote to spend it, then it will roll into the fund balance next year, at the end of this year, yes.
So right now, there's no request for that 150.
No.
Okay.
And hopefully it will accumulate over time, but it shows, that way you can look at the budget and see that we did what you requested, that we dedicate that fund to the school project minus the 150,000.
Right, and everything out of the budget we just came out of, the 23-24 for 189 was, so there's no open POs for 189. So there's
Yeah.
nothing that's gonna cross budget lines.
Yeah, there is. For some reason, you got those 3 pages there. If you look at those 3 sheets, page 4, guess you would call that an open PO. That's where the money's been PO'd to do the 2 elevators, courthouse and annex. It was done in last budget year. They're still waiting on some of the parts, so it's not been done yet. So those are just PO'd. At the end of the day, 9,000 of that amount of money that you put in that line will not be spent, so that rolls into the fund balance.
Okay.
But the PO'd amount for the 2 elevators will be there until it's used.
All right, so the elevators are
That-
open POs out of 189 from the last budget.
Yeah.
But that came from the gaming money, whatever.
Right.
So, so
And
you
we do that every year too. We'll put gaming money into 189, but they want us to wait and amend it in instead of just, I had it just going there, and the auditor said, no, you need to collect it in general fund and then amend it
right,
over
yeah,
to there.
that makes sense.
So, but yeah, that's what we did last year. We brought gaming money from that, wherever it was collected, and put into the 189. We did 159 because that was the estimate. It ended up being 150. So the 150 is either paid or PO'd, and the 9 then rolled back into the fund
All
balance.
right, so you're not touching the 150 that was earmarked for whatever, because you funded it with, okay.
Yeah, it's already PO'd in there.
Very good. All right. That's all I wanted to do with 189. Any questions on it? You understand the 150?
Well, let me go to, since you've got them there, go to page 6 also, and
Page 6.
it's a similar situation.
That's
Um,
other equipment.
That was last year also, and that's where you paid for the servers for the finance department, the trustee, and the road department.
Yeah, that's
And-
already been paid for. I understand. They got the servers.
Well, 32 has been paid, and then it shows funds available, which means that rolled back into the fund balance
Oh,
also.
good.
I'm not bringing that up. That's a sheet that you all copied here, so I'm
Yeah.
just explaining it.
And then
Then the next one, page 7, shows $1.2 million. That was in last year's budget to match the grant at Bradley. You
We
can think
changed
in your
that.
mind that went into fund balance, and in the new budget, it's the much larger number to pay the first year for Hopewell.
exactly. Understand? So everybody's on the same sheet of music with 189. Very good. All right, going back to the agenda. Yeah, there we go. Three. Sports event tourism. So this is, we approved $10,000 out of 172 community development, which is funded by hotel motel tax. Melissa Woody, she came to us, and the city and us agreed. They are going to hire a consultant or a firm to do this study, and the amount came in at 66. So each entity's, us, the chamber, and the city's portion is 22,500. So we need to add an extra 12,500. I know your position, but this is hotel motel tax. So we put 10,000 in there. That was approved by the budget. Now we need to approve an extra 12,500. So I need a motion and a second to increase that to 22,500.
I'll
Have
make
a-
the motion just to discuss it.
I have a motion from Commissioner Slater. I have a second from Commissioner Winters. Commissioner Slater?
So that money comes out of the hotel motel tax money.
Yes, ma'am. Can't be used for anything else. We do pay the loan from Spring Break out of there, but that's already been budgeted. Commissioner Offer, I'm sorry.
So we're looking at a study that's gonna cost us, what, $66,000 now?
Yes. 22 apiece.
67,500.
Almost $68,000 for a study on sports events.
So and your more than welcome, he was there. Basically, they're going to come back after they did their analysis of Bradley County, and the goal is to basically go after events and what it takes to do all that. It's what Melissa came to us about a month or two ago for. Did I get that right? Help me.
Yeah, the city's already approved their half of this. It's a
The
split
third.
between Bradley County and the city. And the study will look at existing parks, existing infrastructure, and tell us what we could then turn around as a community and use to either go after sports tourism, large events, tournaments, things like that. They'll tell us two things. One, with what we have now, what could we go after and get? And they'll do a comprehensive study that would actually have dollars associated with it on the back end to show us possibilities. They'll also give suggestions for what we could potentially build or invest in beyond what we have, as well as the dollars that would be associated with that.
Please.
Who is doing this study and where they're from, or you know anything about them? Have they done anything like this in the past, or has anybody else
Yeah,
done anything like this ever?
Yes, they're out of Knoxville. This is all they do. They had a list of the cities and municipalities. I said that right? Of who they've helped over their. But this is what they do: is They help cities understand the whole marketplace of bringing in events. We'll probably never have something like an Ironman like Chattanooga has, that brings in what they tell it like 20-something million or whatever. But we can go after other events. I mean, the Chinese checker event. I don't know, but the more we bring events in, obviously, and people travel to Cleveland, Bradley County, obviously the economic impact is something we can quantify. We know that from the little bit we get from baseball and softball. I believe the BMX has done well, and that helps all funds. Sales tax is improved and stuff like that. So it's an investment, and we are dividing it by three: us, the chamber, and the city. Please.
I've spent a lot of time this summer on baseball fields. I've got twins that play all the time. I talk to city personnel that are running those and try to find out how did they fund it. But Ottawa has a beautiful facility. Ottawa has this up on a beautiful hill. There's like 8 ballparks there, and city, county, some group funded it. This guy couldn't tell me exactly how. I'd like to know how that happened. Whether our fields, and I think a point that's said here, if our fields are where they are now, what did it take to, what funded to make it the fields acceptable for people to drive hundreds of miles to come to those tournaments? So I think that's what this is about. I get it that we want to make sure we know where that money comes from and how it's used. But I think if we want to move to the next levels, and we've got nice ball fields here, but we don't have the turf fields. We don't have the football stadium type fields. And I think I'd like to know how Ottawa did that, how other cities our size did that. Maybe we could get our financial base from our industries who'd like to pick up one of those or 2 of those or 3 of those and look at it. 22,000 going with the city and whoever's doing that sounds like a
Chamber.
Sounds like a pretty good deal to put that together. But if they give us a good report, we could sit. Coach over here knows if he gets a good report, he knows that other cities and counties are doing this. We could put our efforts behind here together. I think it's probably 22,000. Wow.
And when we talked to them, did they say what the timeline was on this? I mean, they're ready to get going, from understanding the report, the analysis and all that would be here shortly. It wouldn't be like
You're talking, I
years.
think it was 6 months.
Yeah,
They would do their thing over the course of 3 or 4 months and come back with a finished study in 5 or 6 months, I believe it was.
All right. Mr. Slayer's wolfing the water down. All right. You got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Mayor, on this, if this is approved, how do I go about adding the extra 12,000 budget, the budget amendment and next finance?
Get it passed, and I'll tell Caleb what to do.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Caleb. We'll buy your lunch. How's that? All right. Got a motion?
What's that account gonna come out of?
Gonna come out 172.
Okay.
That's the fund. I'm
If
sorry.
it's okay, Caleb, you need to go to the 172 fund, do an amendment reducing fund balance for $12,500 and increasing line 58190-399. That's what the amendment will look like, and then add that to the packet when it goes to consent.
Thank you, Mayor. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Those opposed, say no. Motion passes 5-0. All right, moving on to item D, Bradley Central Track. Commissioner Alford, I believe you put this on the agenda. You are recognized.
Well, have y'all been watching the Olympics? Anybody been watching the Olympics?
Women.
Well, you missed out on some good. Well, that's immature.
I watched
that's-
fencing.
I don't blame you on that, but no. If y'all been watching some outstanding Olympics, especially in track and field, and I mean those races have been just make you sit on your toes. Anyway, it'd be nice if we had somebody from Bradley County in the Olympics one of these days from track and field. We've never had anything. We've got people playing professional basketball. We've had people playing professional baseball. We've had people playing professional football, but we've never had a professional track person out there. And I guess you know why if you looked at my display a couple of weeks ago. So my point is that we need to either, use my English, get off the pot, but do one or the other. Either say, forget it, put it off for another 4 years or 3 years or 2 years or whatever. What I would wish we would do is at least let's put it out for bid. Get the bids in and see what kind of monies we're actually looking at. I know pretty much what we're looking at, but I'd like for the whole commission to get an idea of what we're looking at. If that would be a feasible, we're not saying we're doing anything. We just want to put it out for bid and get some realistic numbers in.
Who would be responsible for putting that bid together?
Who puts all of our bids together?
Mayor, who puts all of our bids together? I mean, well, whoever, like,
School will.
I mean, I mean, it's on your property. I mean, please.
So we have some documents that we'll be glad to share with the commission that we've done over the last year, showing you probabilities. But as far as putting bid documents and things together, that would still fall with the commission. But we have a lot of work that's already been done that we can hand off that gives you an idea of. I believe there's a cost analysis in. All of those pieces have been done. But as far as a bid package, we would not be prepared to do that because that's not in my board's initiative to handle the track at this point. But I do have a lot of information that I can have sent over to Lori.
Thank you, Dr. Cash.
You're welcome.
They've done some homework, no
It-
pun intended.
The homework I've seen is the same work that I've seen. It's the whole complex, not just the track. Yeah, I know it's broken down, so that's the only part I would think we'd need to see is what's been broken down. And I basically already have that.
You have that, okay.
Yeah, I could, yes.
You must be freezing
And
over
we've
there.
already got,
He looks like Little Red Riding Hood.
we already got 2 people, I think, that's put out, Cope come out with an astronomical number that Ms. Cash had, but that's for the whole complex. That wasn't just for the track. Same way with, I think, Kyle had come up, I guess you're talking about the part that Kyle had come up with that gives the whole scenario again. It's like $8 million, and the other one was $7 million, which is astronomically out of the question. I think we can do a track for a little over 2. And that's where I'm coming from. That's why I'd like to at least get it bid out, just track now. Track and field, yeah. And with an option, put on there, we can go grass or we can go turf and bid it both ways and see where we're at and go from there. I know some people don't want to borrow money, but in order to do it, if we do it this year, we do it next year, we do it the next year. Sooner or later, you're going to have to borrow the money because we've already spent all of our 189, is it? Or 150. All your money for the Hopewell project, so we don't have any free money out there anymore. So we're going to have to save up enough, and it's going to take us 2 or 3 more years to save up enough to spend $2 million on the track. So we either going to borrow money, bite the bullet now, or just keep waiting and spend $400,000 more next year, $400,000 the next year. We're going to end up spending $3 or $4 million for a track. So that's where I'm at. I just like to get it bid out. See.
Mr. Winters?
Following your point, you're looking just track, not field, not put.
That's all. Track and shot put.
What's
Got your shot put. I know.
talking track?
What about javelin?
Track it. All that inclusive. Only additional.
Commissioner Slater, please. Anybody?
So historically, have there been other projects where we didn't have the money to fund them, that we went out and got a quote to see how much they were going to cost?
Usually, usually when we put it out to bid, we have an idea about how much it's gonna cost, and we know how to pay for it, especially if we borrow. I just,
I've got a pretty good idea what we'd end up paying for, but I
Then-
want to pitch.
so then, to her point, which is a good point, then let's say it's 2 million,
Yeah.
not to, then how do we pay for $2 million? Even if we borrow it, then you still got principal and interest for terms of the loan.
Sure. Don't argue the point.
The mayor's gonna wanna know how we're gonna pay for it. I mean, he's gonna be mad at me now.
He's gonna be mad at me because I'm gonna say we borrowed from an interlocal loan, and we paid less than 4%. That principal's gonna be going down next year. So if you are an interlocal agreement, you don't have to start paying on it till next year. So you got a whole year that we can use that money, but not have to start paying it back. And then if you look at what we've overdone, I know the mayor's gonna get mad at me now for sure. If you look at where we paid extra on some of our other loans, like $200,000 on a loan, that, we're just paying them off a little extra early. Now, how much did we pay off last year? 7, 8 million?
We paid that one debt. I don't remember how much it
Yeah,
was, do you,
so-
Marlon?
We've been paying extra
we
on
paid-
some
we-
of the debt.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. We
So-
paid our workhouse off, and the only 2 other interfund loans are ESG.
Well, this year's budget, look at this year's budget, how much extra we paid on this year's budget?
ESG and Spring Branch, and you
I
can't.
think spring, it's
We are scheduled to pay more on Spring Branch, but that's because it's in the 172 fund,
But you can't use.
and there's
what's the other
additional
one? The
money
other
there.
one's the electric.
Yeah, it's in the regular debt, and we're not paying extra on it. Simply I'm not part of your pro and con debate, okay? But-
You got thrown in the middle of it.
Yeah, but, I mean, and Mylan has mentioned paying more on ESG, but our debt service is actually spending, if you look at this year, I think it spent $1 million more than revenue. And we're doing the same thing this current year. And I think it will be that way again next year. You follow me? If revenue is, I'll make up a number, 10 million, and the debt's 11 million, so the fund balance is going down $1 million, down $1 million, down $1 million, which is why we can't pay more out of debt service for these things like ESG, which is also why I don't recommend borrowing, because you've already got a debt service. Now, we're okay, don't get me wrong. If media is writing the story, we meet the fund balance requirement, but the fund balance is going down because revenue is repeatedly less than the debt for 3 years. And then if you look at that graph that you all wanted, after that 3-year period, 26, 27, I believe, then the graph drops off and we're okay. But until it drops off, I don't suggest more debt, simply because we could pay it, don't get me wrong, but it's not smart financing to add more debt when you already have more expenses than you have revenue.
You look at that
No,
graph,
you got the
it
floor.
does fall off quite a bit in 26.
That's the key year is
Yeah, I know,
then.
26 is the key year, but this is 24. A year and a half from now, your track's gonna double the cost or triple the cost. So, looking at it, as I said in my thing not long ago, you would pull the Band-Aid off now quickly, let it get over with, or pull it off slow to 26 and let it hurt for a long time.
Commissioner Slater, please.
So I haven't personally ever bid anything out, but aren't bids only good for a specific period of time?
If it's a real bid, yes.
Well, usually, 90 days, 30 days?
It's whatever you put in the
You can
packet,
put
but
in your
usually,
packet how long you want it to be.
usually 90
Make-
days. or
yeah,
something
90
like that.
days, usually.
Commissioner Mason, please.
Have we thought about reached out to any companies?
If we thought about what?
Reaching out to any companies that could possibly be interested in helping with the track at Bradley High School? I'm sure the school board and this commission would probably Dr. Cashman probably would put a name out there for somebody if we could get a track at Bradley High School.
Maybe that'd be good for the track coach to go and try to find some donations.
I mean, it's just a thought.
The Mason Mile, how's that? I don't know the answer to that question, Commissioner Mason.
Grant could
Mayor,
maybe print
Commissioner-
that.
Anybody? Our two guests today? I don't know. All right, anything else on,
Just
Commissioner West,
follow
please.
up. Some of those districts outside of the state, park is named after the industry. I was in the here. Some chamber. It's a great idea.
That's just a thought with money being tight.
Anything else on item D?
Did we decide if we're gonna bid it or just let it lay?
Since nobody made any motion or lifted a finger, I think we're just gonna let it lay. That's just my guess. All right. What is? Okay. Okay. We have a motion. What exactly is your motion? Okay, just to clarify, when we say we, that pronoun, who is we? Okay.
So I have another question.
Of course.
So
Right. We have a motion. I want to make sure I get his motion right. We have a motion to put a bid package out to find out what the cost of a track would be. Do I have that right? Okay. You got most of it. All right, we have a motion. Do I have a second? The motion fails for lack of second. Sorry. Now, but Commissioner Slater, you wanted to speak to this?
So my question was gonna be, okay, if this motion passed, is that Lori's responsibility to go out and get the bids for the track? Or if we were 3 years down the road and like we have already voted that in 3 years we will build the track, would that be your all's job to go and get the bids at that time?
And that's typically how we funded Lake Forest. We funded the Pie Center, but they did the bidding and approved the bidding and stuff like that. So that answer your question.
Yeah, I mean, but my question was, would that be Lori's job to go get the bids? And have you ever done that before? So the mayor would put,
It says
Correct.
We will fund the track.
it says we will fund it.
Anything else on item D? All right, thank you guys. Moving on to item E, opioid fund. This is on the agenda. Mayor, I saw that we did receive the opioid for this budget. Last year, excuse me, we formed, this committee, sent out an invitation for those organizations who wanted to apply. Our budget already has the funding for those organizations that are being paid for through opioids, so that part's done. But there was some money left over, and last year we granted that out to a couple organizations. are we at that point now where because it was in August, I believe, last year, that we can do that again, or I'm just trying to make sure that we stay on top of this, and then I want
Yeah.
to speak about the committee.
Your budget has assumed a $200,000 figure in your total.
Right,
And that particular page where it's got Boys Club, ATS, and all those organizations that you approved are left at zero for each one of them.
all right,
So you're gonna go through that same process this fall, sometime September, October, bringing them in, I assume, and deciding how much you give each one.
how much we're going to get, and I think last year also we're going to see how they use the money, if they were, all that kind of stuff.
You bring them in to give a report and make a request.
Right, but, so I wanted to ask the finance committee, is it CTAS who had that email out to us about opioid? And, the way I read it, they highly recommend that we form a committee, and the committee, kind of like our HCI handles, the sale of the Bradley Memorial money, instead of finance committee or building and land or one of our internal committees, we form a committee and task them with the thing that we did last year. So in other words, I'll use a big fancy word, outsourcing it to this committee. I just want to see if the finance committee, eventually the full commission, agrees with CTASC on that recommendation. Adam, you look like you have something to say.
We weren't ready to discuss this today. We were probably going to ask to discuss it at the next finance committee meeting in September, but we've been working with CTAS to develop quite a few. Last year, I think we were all flying without a net, right? It was the first time we had the funds. Weren't exactly sure how best to proceed, but we've been able to put together, with their help, a more formal application, a scoring mechanism, so that it's not quite so objective. They do recommend and give examples of bylaws for forming a third party committee, very similar to, like you said, the HCI committee and the way they function. As the mayor and I have talked, we weren't necessarily going to propose one way or the other, either a third committee that would make a recommendation to the finance committee that would make a recommendation to the full commission is one option, or this finance committee could take on the lion's share of that recommendation like you did last year. We were going to more or less leave that up to you, but say, hey, here's the resources that they made available and that we put together for Bradley County.
And my 2 cents is, I like the idea of forming a committee. I think it works well with the HCI. They do all the interviewing with the application and the scoring system. If memory recalls, that's kind of how HCI started. The first year, they kind of did it on their own. Then they found out maybe we should I wouldn't call them professionals, but let a committee of civilians handle it. So that would be my suggestion, is to ask Chairman Cry to put together a committee, or use the HCI format. Or we could actually, the same members of HCI could just take this on. That was another option,
Well,
I thought. HCI has 2 medical people in there.
In the recommendation, they recommend who you should have serving, if you want to go that route. Between now and September, you need to decide, do you want to take care of it yourself, or do you want to appoint this committee? And we'll bring what they recommend the committee look like if you wanted to go that route. But you would have to be appointing and getting some people in the community to serve, more like some mental health type people and stuff like that.
I think we did a decent job, but
it's up to you all, whichever way you want to go.
Keep the politics out a little bit. Commissioner Alford, Commissioner Winters, Commissioner Slater, Commissioner Mays, please, what's your thoughts on this? Mine is to let, you guys are willing to, sounds like you are, come back with it.
We'll bring that to you next month
in
either way, but
September,
you ought to be thinking about which.
But I'm all by myself. Commissioner Mason, Commissioner Slater, Commissioner Winter. Okay,
There's an argument both ways.
there
and
is.
To tell the other side of what Adam just said, CTAS recommends the more formal way, but you got to look at all the counties they're representing. They're not Bradley County. They may meet once a month. They may meet quarterly like the law requires. So you guys can do a lot more than the average county if you choose to. But the other way is what they suggest.
It is that.
Yeah.
They're probably looking at their smaller counties as
A lot of
And-
counties would have a hard time doing
Yeah.
what you all do.
So I get Commissioner Slater's opinion. Commissioner Mason, Winters offered your thoughts? You have none.
Thought we had a thought we had a good plan.
Okay.
And it worked well. I understand about city testing. I'd be much as we keep it as local as possible with the devices. It is personal. It becomes more personal when we're all doing people. At the same time, I think effective. Not have it together. Not get kids make decisions. I've having more information. Well, got 2 months to do this.
Well, you
my-
got as long as you want. I suggest you decide this in September, and then in October, you start the process of awarding. Because you're gonna have to go through the hearings and stuff, especially if you all do it.
But today I want us to decide whether or not we keep it internal to this, or, form a committee. So, and I'll just ask Commissioner Mason your 2 cents, please.
I don't mind doing it in-house either with,
So,
with-
Commissioner
with us.
Slater, I was just, we saw the emails that CTAS sent. The mayor will keep this internal.
Well, if you're gonna do that, then we'll bring it, and you will have better information this year, because CTAS was behind the ball last year. We were ahead of them. But the application process and stuff, and so next month, you put out when you want to have the hearing for them to come in and tell where they're at this year, the deadline for applying, and then have them all in to make their presentation for what they're requesting. You remember last year, I think 5 people requested, and you funded 4 of them, I
That's
believe.
correct, yep.
There was one you didn't.
Mhm.
But you'll need to open it up, because there may be new people in the community that want to request. That can happen in October.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, is in September, we'll know more about the process and how we're gonna go about it. The invitations will be sent out, ads and stuff like that. In October, schedule those that are
Yeah.
interested in applying for grants, basically hear their story, and then either November, December, make the awards.
We just need to be clear on one thing this year. There was a discrepancy in the requests and the award last year. And I still don't know what the total was, but, one of them, they requested this and it got changed to this. There was a little bit of that discussion. We need to make it point blank, because I don't think what's in this book ended up being the right amount. And it's done as a donation, so even though we're doing it after the first of the budget year, you get them approved and it's a donation to the cause. So by June 30th, it's all spent. It's not like that. And keep in mind too, you're talking about doing it in-house. Most of the opioid budget you all are already doing in the budget process. It's just this one little section that's not done July the 1st. So by having that meeting, opening it up to anybody in the community, 5 or 6 people come in, you decide how you want to award it, then we got to amend that into the budget, and it's a done deal.
I didn't know there were some discrepancies in how much we awarded.
Yeah, I
but
don't remember.
We'll put
There
some,
was.
we'll put some safeguards in there then. so
We just
people-
need to be sure this
Mhm.
year the
So-
award amount.
Lori, we'll put on the finance agenda for September, an agenda item to continue our discussion of opioid funding, focusing on the process and, how we want to do.
You could even bring them in, go ahead and bring them in September if you want
Yeah.
to and hear them.
I'll wait till October. if you
Wait
don't
till
mind.
October?
If you don't mind.
Well, that's fine. The only thing is, if you wait till October to hear them, are you gonna bring everybody back at another date then to make their presentation for next year, or are you just gonna base it on that report?
What I was thinking is that in September, we extend the invitations to the current people and anybody else.
Okay,
And
for
then Lori
October.
will schedule an October finance,
Okay.
within our October finance meeting, schedule their time for their presentations.
That'd be fine.
Or if we can do a special call in September if we want, please.
I think it would be helpful if in your September meeting, you look at all the resources that CTAS can provide. It sounds like you've already decided to keep it internal,
Yes.
right? And the resources that they've given us can easily be used internal or external.
So we just need
The
to,
applications, the scoring,
Right.
all of that. even the sample agreements that they've drawn up. Obviously, any of it can be tweaked for Bradley County, but another thing that would be really helpful is if we've got this money for the next 17 years, so it would be really good to almost put together, for lack of a better word, a budget calendar, a calendar, so that every year we know September 1 this program opens, and September, October 1 decisions are made. Again, all up to your discretion, but in talking with the folks as they call, there's nothing set in stone. So it would be nice, I think, for us moving forward, as well as the community, to know every September they've got an opportunity to potentially apply for this money.
I agree. We just didn't know
If it's
how the money
September.
was gonna come in. You asked us to wait until after the budget's passed.
Yeah, because it's coming in all along.
It's, all throughout the year, but so now you have an amount, and let's say after September 1, after we send another check from pharmaceutical A comes in, that won't be included in what we're gonna grant out. That'll follow into the following year.
Right.
So, that's pretty cool. But that's kind of the idea I had, was in September, we're gonna understand, take a look at the application, see, it's good for us to know what we're asking and the whole process. So basically understand the process and then send out invitations.
And we're just starting to do the reporting, but the opioid reporting has the potential of being worse than the ARP ever thought about.
Oh,
The people in Nashville who we have to deal with on opioid, or the council, which is
so is there a
It's-
situation where we need to hire somebody to actually do the reporting for us?
not yet. I mean, Development District helps us with the ARP, and
Right.
it may get to that point at some point, but
You'll-
right now,
You'll let us know.
I think we're making it through it, because you got to understand the state's been so far behind. We were out budgeting money for opioid when they weren't. So it may get to that point this next year.
All right, so everybody's in agreement on that? Very good. Moving on to item F, Public Water Fund. As I mentioned in the full commission, this is the HCI, the part of the HCI that is for water. We have two applications here, and I'm gonna ask Lori to give us a real brief description of these applications, and then we have to make a decision.
Due to installation challenges, such as minimal shoulder ditch area and multiple drainage crossings. The estimate is based on 1,000 linear feet of 6-inch lines, and Rakestraw Road is an existing county road, and this would be new line construction. Cleveland Utilities is unable to determine the number of potential customers. You may read their comments on page 10, quote, "Not sure, looks like they are multiple dwellings on the large acre tract," end quote. Now, the property owner confirmed by email, which is found on page 12 of your packet, that, quote, "My future home will be on the property, and doing this would also lead to other homes on the property to access water shortly in the future, as that is the plan," end quote. Now, the owner also goes on in that email to note, no one has yet built on the land due to no water access. And this project is currently, I need to note, under review by the Southeast Tennessee Development District. Their application is signed by one Bradley County citizen with the 50% pledge to match for the project. And Cleveland Utilities, if this project is approved by you and the full county commission, will commit $20,000 to the project, which leaves our piece, as we sit today, without including any challenges that they said could be out there, would be $22,500. And this would be our first use of public water funds this current fiscal year, and we have $34,778 sitting in our public water fund today.
All right, any questions for Lori on the Rakestraw project? Commissioner Slater, please.
So if I look at page 9, it says that it's $85,000
Correct.
and $20,000 from Cleveland Utilities would make it $65,000. Or is the homeowner paying half of the 85?
Well, okay, so 85,000 minus the 20,000,
Is
the
60
Cleveland Utilities.
65.
And then would be minus our 22.5. So basically, the property owner does about 50% of the cost of the
Okay.
project.
Any other questions for Lori on this one? Commissioner Alford, Commissioner Winters, Commissioner Mason?
Is this about average?
Commissioner Winters?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is this about average what an individual property owner would pay at a large 50%?
A little bit.
And
Or is-
with the public water fund, yes. So we have had projects in the past where one property owner basically foots the whole bill, because it's important to note that once that line is run, you know, if I paid for it and Louis happens to be my neighbor and he didn't contribute anything to it, they won't prohibit him from tapping onto that water line. He can freeload off of my line. So, and Cleveland Utilities certainly said, you know, we can't tell how many folks will be participants. And I think it's also important to note that there are no homes yet on this property, and if you'll refer to your public water fund criteria, I don't know, perhaps this is gray area, but it's not supposed to replace developer costs of installation of water. So I bring this to you today, and let me also note before there's any further discussion or motions on this one, Project 2, hang on just a second. The No Pone Road project flipped from a 6-inch line to a 2-inch line late Friday afternoon. And the public water fund criteria that I read to you earlier requires a minimum 6-inch diameter line. Therefore, this project is not eligible for public water funds. And I did speak with the property owner, and he said, I understand, that's the rules. He said, and it will be a less cost for him. So if we did run it, I say all this to say, if we did run it as a public water fund, he would pay more out of pocket than he's going to pay out of pocket on his own with this 2-inch line. So he withdrew his project.
The one project then.
We're down to just the one, yes, as of about 4:30 Friday.
And we have how much money in that fund? 30-some thousand?
$34,778.
So if we funded this, we'd have about $12,000 left.
And Commissioner Slater, just to let you know how it works, that 12,000 obviously would be there for the rest of this budget year, and it would not be replenished until the next budget year. And you would only need, obviously, the amount that we spend on this project to get it back. In other words, it won't be 30-something thousand plus the 12,000 that never got used. It's always going to be at 30
Index each year,
plus the index, yeah. Please.
So, I'm reading his email to you, Lori. Is this something the builder should do? I mean, that's kind of what it sounds like.
Well, I think I don't want to say that it's subjective or objective, but the criteria is what it is, and it says that it is not to replace developer
Yes, it is.
costs.
I mean, in other words, you have a parcel, a piece of land there, it doesn't have a house on it, they're gonna build it, and they're gonna take advantage of the fact that the government came in, and a private citizen and a utility company funded the infrastructure, which is what a developer would love to see, I guess.
Well,
Mr. Mason, please.
I know Rakestraw Road is in my district, and Rakestraw Road's not that long of a road. I was thinking we already had some folks
Already dealt with,
pull into.
Have we done a
Rakestraw.
project with Rakestraw before?
hadn't we?
I apologize. Perhaps I would have to have some time to go back
We
and
did
look at my
one last-
files on that.
Well, it
The
says-
name sounds familiar.
It says on here, there's an existing 6-inch water line on the picture.
Mm. The name sounds familiar. Commissioner Mason, do you remember?
I think it was the nippers that hooked on. That's what I was wondering. Rakestraw Road's not that long of a road.
Oftentimes, there will be a line up to a certain point, and then in order to service those beyond that point, they tap onto the end of that and run it past there. So perhaps this is one of those instances, but Cleveland Utilities did confirm that there is not a line there, so we know that it is unassessed.
But on the other side of the coin, Commissioner Slater, if it was just that one house, it would qualify.
There's not a house there yet,
Oh, I thought it was.
no.
So there's absolutely no houses whatsoever on the property.
No,
I thought I saw a house right here, or a little hut.
Well, let's see. He said, let me make sure I'm not getting my two. He says that his future home will be on the property, and doing this would also lead to other homes on the property to access water shortly in the future, as that is the plan. And then Cleveland Utilities said that there are multiple buildings on the larger acre tract, but they're unable to determine the number of potential customers. So I guess if you look at it with those multiple dwellings on the large acre tract that are unrepresented or not a part of this application, then perhaps you could reach those folks.
But they didn't apply.
They didn't, no.
All right, Commissioner Offer, please.
I think we need to research it, but I'm pretty sure, like Mr. Mason thinking, I think we dealt with Rakestraw Road last year. Or maybe it was an individual house on Rakestraw Road, but somewhere, sometime Rakestraw Road has been dealt with, I think. And then again, if you remember, Dry Valley Road, that they wanted to extend that water line. There wasn't no houses on it yet, but they wanted to extend it about 200 or 300 more feet. We turned them down. So just keep that in mind.
Well, anybody else? It sounds like, unfortunately, it doesn't meet the criteria that's been established that we put in there, and we'll just have to send up. But Commissioner Slater?
Should we move this one to next month until
We can.
until Lori is able to look at Rakestraw Road a little bit?
We certainly can.
Let's do that, and certainly it's currently under review by the Development District, so we should have an opinion from them by that point as well.
All right. So Lori, if you'll move this agenda item to the September Finance Committee, that would be forever in your debt. Or maybe not forever. Yeah. And, all right, that concludes, we're going to basically roll that agenda item, going back up to the agenda. Other business. Anybody have anything to bring before the committee? Seeing none, and we'll go from communication from the audience. I'll recognize anybody and provide you 5 minutes to anyone who wishes to speak. Going once, going twice. Seeing none. All right. We don't have anything that I need to bring to the full commission tonight. Our next meeting will be Tuesday, September 3rd, 2024 at 11:30 here in the commission room. Thank you, everybody. We are adjourned.